Welcome to the Covent Garden Inner Space Talk. Our talk today is turning regrets into growth. And if you've seen the image of the flyer, you'll know that it's a flowering branch that's just beginning to flower. And it's incredible that sometimes we let regrets hold us back. But if we were to not do that and channel the energy, how much we would blossom. So the talk tonight is asking us, are we stuck in a loop of what ifs or should haves? What do you regret more, action or inaction? Maybe you regret missed opportunities or a hasty decision. Maybe you regret not being more bold or drifting away from a friend. You know, regrets are part of our life, but it's not okay to let regrets weigh heavily on our minds. Holding on to regrets can only hinder our growth. So let's transform our regrets into lessons learned and opportunities for personal growth. We've asked our speaker this evening to share his personal insights on how to turn regrets into growth and harness it to move forward in our lives with purpose. Erik Larson is a civil engineer, a technical consultant by profession. He is based in New York and is the director of the Brahma Kumaris in the USA, as well as their representative at the United Nations. Erik's going to be sharing with us for around 40 minutes, and then after that he'll do a short guided meditation. Following the meditation, he'll be answering any questions. So please send in your questions via the question and answer link or through the chat, and I will put those questions to Erik on your behalf. Erik, thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Good. Thank you much. Happy to be here. Happy to chat. And happy gardening to everybody. Using our regrets, having regrets, doing things. There was a website that was created, and we had to register, sign up, get involved. And so a long time ago, it was kind of a small group, and we had to think of a username. And my username was Do My Best, DOMYBEST. Haven't used it for a while, but that was something that I came up with, not real original, because that's kind of what I believe for myself and for everybody else, that we're all doing our best. And if I have that feeling, if I have that awareness, if I have that thought, then I will do my best. And as I do my best, that's the best I can do. Seems kind of simple and redundant, and that way of looking at it. But if I do my best, I can't do anything else. And so when I do something and it doesn't turn out the way I want to, there's lots of responses to that. You know, sadness comes in, disappointment comes in. I'm assuming, and I try not to make assumptions, that most of you are familiar with sadness or unhappiness or disappointment, and how that comes up with, oh, I should have done something different, our regrets. And part of that is a natural, beneficial phenomena. Because one way to look at it, we do something and, didn't work out. If we stop there and hold that thought, that's a big trap punishment problem. if we recognize that, I did something and I have a regret because it didn't turn out, or I have a reaction to that, that's information. That's good intelligence, because it is guiding us into our truer self, our deeper self, our inner desires, our spiritual values. All of that is made clear by regret and the feelings of regret, sadness, unhappiness, could be anger. Let's not go too deep into that. But there's an analogy that strikes my mind that had thought of, and that's we don't always get second chances. But if you've ever seen these documentaries about the military and big cannons, how they've got these things, sometimes battleships or whatever they've got, and could be whatever it is, weapons. They'll shoot them. They'll say, "Oh, the target is, half a mile away, and so do this." And they give directions and elevations, and they fire, and they miss. They did something, didn't work out right. Wasn't what they wanted. Do they say, "Oh, that's so bad. That's not what we want. That's terrible. We have to go home now"? No, they don't do that. What do? They say, "Oh, that was short. So raise the turret, the barrel, a little higher, get a little more angle, and try again." So they learn from everything that they do. They shoot once, they miss, they adjust, gets a little closer. Supposedly, if you're good, you can only have 2 shots to get your target. First one, okay, and then adjust, however it's going to be. But they adjust. They use whatever they've done to get feedback. That's information. That's intelligence. That's kind of, oh, well, I tried it and I didn't get the result that I wanted, but I got a result that gives me information on how to get closer to what I want. And so every time we do something, if we do our best, and we can only do our best for whatever reason, you can't do anything else because that's who you are and that's what you did, then we're getting information back. We're getting feedback. We're getting something that we might not like, that we might not feel comfortable with, but that aspect of how well do I listen to myself, to my consciousness, to the world around me, to whatever's going on? How much do I actually pay attention? Because if I'm paying attention, I will be able to adapt. And it's a big part of it. Okay, this is what happened. Now what can I do? These are going to be some skills that come up, and I can accept it. It doesn't help the military if they shoot something and somebody says, "No, no, no, we didn't miss, we got it. That's it. Very good." They're wrong. They're, bad consequences. So they have to accept the reality of the situation. It's that sense that, this is what it is. Let me accept the feedback, see what the results are, and then kind of continue on. What do I want to really achieve? If I don't want to hit the target, then I can stop. That's fine. Oh, I only got 1 bullet and I missed, and forever and ever, that's going to be bad. Get more bullets, more focus in what you want. Continue with that. And in that process, then we grow. We will grow. We will get much clearer. We will have a variety. And that kind of an attitude needs to be developed in order for us to move through our lives well. And I believe that's one of the points of transforming regret, is that it is recognized as a heavy, disabling, not beneficial feeling, action, limiting. If we are always regretting, There was a time, if you came in on time, you heard the story of the shirts, a bargain in the fashion district in New York. But there was a time, long time ago, for some of you youngsters, where we didn't have cell phones. So if someone was talking while they were walking, they were kind of in their own little world, you know, and you kind of stayed away from those people. Now they're everywhere. But there was one individual who lived in, I don't know where he lived, but he was an occupied space in the city. And he was regularly, arguing. He was playing the same argument over and over again. He was stuck. He wasn't able to move out of that. Whatever was happening, whatever took place, obviously he regretted the situation he was in. He was not happy with it, but he had no power. He didn't have the power to accept or move on or change that. And so he was stuck, couldn't adjust. He couldn't deal with the reality that was there. And so he was continuing to walk around shouting and arguing with an invisible entity person who wasn't there in his life anymore. And it wasn't pleasant to watch, but that's kind of one of the consequences. If we don't have some sort of an awareness, practice, attention to how we are dealing with things that might not go right, not exactly the way we want. Because when we regret something, and make a list of those if you've got any still there, it takes us back in time. It takes us to a place where, that energy is there. And if we don't do anything differently on how we look at that, that value is still going to be continuing. That value, that energy, that negative, that hurt, it's going to still be there. And the more we look at something, and the practice that I'm engaged with, and that's looking at how I think and meditation and trying to empower my ability to choose, that if I get stuck into a feeling and I keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, it gets bigger, it gets stronger, it gets more ingrained. And that individual in the city walking around arguing got stuck in that. And so trying to figure out how to move through these elements is a little bit of listening. What's going on? What happened when I did that? What was the response? What was the reaction of the results of what I did or didn't do? Also thinking about a friend I had long time ago, youngsters. We hung out and, you kind of have your ways of interacting. Two little boys, grade school and junior high and high school. Got to know very well. And we like to do some of the same things, play some games and, we had some fun together. He had some friends and so we got together. It was kind of a gang, not a real gang. But as we grew up, he was making some decisions and his behavior I just couldn't always agree with. We were growing apart. He had different friends that kind of like to do a few things that I don't think I want to do that tonight. I don't think I want to do that ever. And there was this sense that was losing something. And some of the ways that he behaved, forgot to show up or this or that, hurt. Like, how come I was disrespected? How come this, whatever it was going to be? And what I found when I kind of evaluated that is the way I wanted to lead my life, the values that I had. And it was kind of a spiritual awakening, if you want to do it, where you could kind of let things go previously. But this was an understanding of, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be with a friend or in a relationship where it feels like I am being hurt, um, disrespected. And so it was not something that I would have wanted. And the fact that I was choosing to spend less time and move away was not easy. Because sometimes you have to confront things, or sometimes you don't have to confront things. But that sense of what have I done and what is happening because of that? Those decisions, I couldn't regret them, but I regretted the fact that I had to make them, if that makes any sense. There's a sense that, I don't want things to change, if you've ever had that feeling. The way we were, the way things are, let's kind of keep it the same. Not that this is a political statement or anything, but that sense of, having to regret that when we make a choice, we make a lot of choices. Anytime we choose something, I'm not going to be a friend with you. I'm not going to have this type of sandwich. We make a lot of choices. I'm going to have spaghetti for lunch, which means I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to have soup. I'm not going to have salad. I'm not. When we choose, we are also choosing not to have something. And that can be kind of a regret also. And I had that feeling recently. A few details that will sneak out, but I went recently to my 70th, my 50th high school reunion. And at that reunion, it was very melancholy. It was like, oh, look at all, I haven't seen you. Didn't think of you for 50 years. But it was that same sensation for me that I had made decisions, and I kind of was thinking of myself a lot in my own life, which everybody has to do. Where I would go to school, what job, what city, how I would do these things, how I spend my time, how easy it is actually to lose connections with people. And so back in this reunion, I hadn't gone for a long time. It's far away now. But I thought, gosh, 50 sounds memorable, and let me see what it is. And they were threatening, rightly so, that this is the last reunion that was going to be organized. But there was this sense of regret that I had made decisions and I had kind of excluded myself from other people's lives. I mean, I knew that I had done it. I had done it consciously. I did it because that's what I wanted to do. I couldn't have done anything different, but there was still this sense of I've missed something. I've missed, I think there were 150 of us there, and 50 years, didn't see most of them. So I had missed 7,500 years of people that would have been my friends at one time, or acquaintances. That sounds like a lot. And it's like, you can't fill that in. You can't, understand it. Some of the conversations went a little deeper than others, but most of them were, hey, I remember you. How you doing? Still playing golf? Yeah, okay, good. Still this, retired? Yeah, me too. Whatever it is. So there's that sense of, it was very interesting because I did regret that I didn't get a chance to know more about people that at one time I cared for, that I knew. But I didn't live in that regret. Oh, if only, oh, it's so sad. Oh, I just kind of observed that and noticed it and kind of moved on. Didn't hold on to that feeling, but allowed myself to know that there was something inside of me. And that's part of, I hope, what might be coming through a little tonight. There's a part of us that gives us clues or information about what's important. And friendship is important. Found that out. I can't have unlimited friends. I have to make choices on that. And that's not always easy. What do I do? Can't always eat everything on the menu. What do I do? But we make choices, do our best with how we observe the situation, and recognize that I'm going to get an outcome and it's going to be fine. I'm going to feel it, accept that, think about it, and use that information like the artillery. Adjust to make sure that the feedback I get is going to be appropriate for the next thing that I do. And there's a saying that if you make a choice and you don't get what you want, you always get something. If you don't get what you want, you get experience. Okay. So anytime you choose, you're going to get something, whatever it's going to be. And want to play with reframing things, because the stories that we tell are really important. So if something has happened and it didn't work out and you don't get a chance, I took a test, I flunked, or something like that, whatever it's going to be. I switched in the lane, I had an accident. That's not good. You don't get a second chance on some things. And so sometimes those actions, those events, no second chance, didn't work out, didn't get what we wanted. And sometimes major consequences, often major consequences on what we do and what we say, and can't take it back. Be very careful in your emails these days. Free advice. Don't put down anything that you don't want everybody in a court of law to read. I think that's the way it goes. With that sense that you don't get a second chance, we have to reframe that event. We have to be able to tell ourselves a different story. And in that sense, what's the story I tell about something that has brought me sadness and that I regret? I should have done this. I could have done this. Why didn't I do this? It's their fault. I'll never forgive them. All sorts of thoughts go through our head. All sorts of ideas. All sorts of justifications about what we do. And if that holds you into the feeling of regret, sadness, anger, be aware. This is the story you're telling about it. It's, you were no good, you shouldn't have done that, should have studied more, whatever it's going to be. And be able to practice saying, creating, looking at it differently so that you can tell yourself something that changes that awareness, changes that emotion that's connected to that, and in a way frees you from what we do. And there's a very powerful principle that comes in that case, because if we keep doing things the same way, we'll keep getting the same results. And actually, it's a law of physics, that if you are moving in a direction, heading in a direction on a straight line, you're going to get where that is, as you're headed. But if there's an outside force that bumps you or influences you, that's the only time it'll change. And so sometimes our thinking is the same way. We keep saying the same story. We keep having that same regret. We keep having another or continual process and have that same feeling dragging us down. So we have to look at that differently. We have to look at it differently in a way that we can't change the event, but how can we change or reduce the influence of that event if we have a regret? And one of the ways that has worked for me is to say, I did my best. I did this. It didn't work out the way I wanted to. I did my best at that time because that's all I can do. I didn't have information that would have helped. I didn't have energy that could have helped. I did because that's who I am and that's what I did and that was the result. But now I'm not there. And so I can hold that thought that I am capable, I'm doing my best, I have these qualities. I've learned from that, and I can start to look forward. And as I start to look forward in my thinking, as I see myself as more learned, more available, more adept, then all of a sudden that energy, that feeling, those qualities are going to be dominant in my mind, in my way of seeing and being. Energy is going to be created. And as I think about myself in that elevated way, the present time, my future is going to respond, and the past is less of an influence. The more I spend time thinking and practicing and developing my spiritual qualities, my mental awareness, and start to apply that, hold that elevated thought of myself, that's the experience I create. That's the future I create. I'm the influence in my own life. And that's the energy that is going to be greater than the past energy. And all of a sudden, those feelings of regret or sadness about that event are going to dissipate. The event won't change, but how we look at it, how we feel about it can. And if it's a burden, if it weighs us down, then we need to do something in the present to empower ourselves so that that feeling about the present is greater and stronger as we move forward. What's the story you tell about any regret? And another way to maybe help us with that is look at a situation that you might want to have changed. And if you got what you wanted, if the outcome was different, how would you feel? What would be the result of that? And so, took a test, you didn't do well on the test. Now you know you should have studied, but you still, didn't do well on the test. Play with this idea of how would you have felt if you passed the test to your expectations? Pretty simple question, actually. Interesting question, I think. Is that if you would have changed it, then you probably would have been happy, had a good feeling, accomplishment, whatever it's going to be. And so rather than being dependent on the world events for how we're going to feel, try to flip that around. Rather than saying, oh, I didn't do good on the test and now I feel bad, instead of having the test be the decider power in how you choose to be, practice how you want to be first. I want to be happy. Let me practice being happy. Let me see a scene of happiness. Let me move into that feeling, devoid, stripped of all external elements. And when I have that awareness, then that will overcome the sadness that I might have chosen to experience after the test. And if I would be happy or joyous or content, I did my best, I did this is what it is. And if I want to have felt content because of my efforts, let me just feel content. Let me start to have that awareness that I'm doing my best, the results weren't what I wanted, but I can still be content with myself. Focus that, practice that. There's lots of methods, practices, tricks, variety of different ways of us to have that entry point into those feelings. And so when we practice those feelings, we're going to have that with whatever we do. We know we're doing our best. We know that the results of the world aren't going to be the source of it. And so we will be very powerful in that way. There was an example today, and I'm going to timestamp this, where there was a problem with some software in the world and brought down most of the airline flights today. Maybe for you it was yesterday, but all around there was an update with a very popular service and didn't work out. So in the United States, American, Delta, and United all couldn't fly. I think they fixed it at this time right now. But they had an interview on the radio kind of updating it. And this guy was at the airport, must have put a mic in his face and said, you know, what's going on? He said, he's a project manager. He's used to problems. And so this was something he was just dealing with. And he said something very interesting. He said, part of what it is to talk to people, let them know that they're not alone, that, you know, things are going to work out somehow. And it was quite insightful that he wasn't there, you know, angry and mad and such, because he was dealing with the situation that was in front of him. He was not allowing the situation to dominate how he was going to choose to be in his life. And so if we start to look at regrets as feedback on our choices and an insight into our spiritual values, then if we practice and if we develop a powerful attitude towards dealing and accepting whatever's going to come, we won't ever have any regrets. We're going to do our best. I'm going to choose to be this way, and I will move forward with whatever the circumstances are. Lovely way to choose to lead your life. I have what I need. I can create the thought of peace. I can create the thought of contentment. I can be in this state of being, and I might as well enjoy the airport and the people around me, because I'm in the airport and there are people around me. It's my choice. It's my way of being. It is what I want. And so I guess a question at this time would be, what do you want? What do you practice? What do you remember? And what is the story you tell yourself? Who am I? What are my qualities? How do I want to be? How do I want to look at this? The news here in the United States depends on what channel you watch and what story they tell you, because I don't know how it might be around the world. But whatever happens, doesn't matter what the event is, two totally opposite reactions take place. You know, we have flowers in the backyard. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. It's glorious. You know, these things like that. And somebody else will say, oh, no, that's not what we wanted. The flowers aren't supposed to be there. We were supposed to, you know, doesn't matter. Everybody has the ability to tell the story that will support their point of view. And so what's your point of view for yourself? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be peaceful? Do you want to have that sense of accepting, dealing, power? Tell yourself that story. I can do this. I will do it. And the more we tell ourselves that story, the more we practice that experience, the more we access that, the more we find entry points into those qualities, the more that's going to be the case. A lot of people I know or have interacted with practice the skill, but in the wrong way. I'm no good. This isn't right. My life has been bad. I regret everything. This is so heavy. Woe is me. Woe is you. Can't help. Nothing's right. Okay. They're not really the life of the party. It's kind of a challenge when you get into that rut. And so there's always help. There's always a possibility. There's always this change if we start focusing on what's right. What's good in me? What's good right now? Let me focus in on that. Let me act on that. Let me be that. And I'm kind of wandering a little here because I think we're going to practice that. It might be around the right time to have a little reflection on not regretting anything and transforming that into a powerful learning experience. And if you are ready, if you are there, I'd like us to see if we might be able to grow. Regrets into growth. And for me, I'm going to just wiggle a little, get stuck, break that habit where I was sitting. I'm going to take a deep breath and offer that to you. And see if you might be able to focus in on your awareness wherever you're sitting. I hope you're sitting. I hope you are comfortable. And I hope you bring your attention to the screen, the voice, the present moment. And with that choice of thoughts, we're here together. And there have been lots of situations in my life, up, down, right, left, good, bad. But I'm going to focus now on how I want to be no matter what happens. That I want to be clear, calm, peaceful. And I offer those choices to you and ask you to think of a time, moment, when you were that way. Nothing happening, everything is calm, just a natural sweetness of being alive comes to you. And we see ourselves sitting comfortably, relaxed, not thinking about anything else, just being comfortable with ourselves right now at the present moment. And as I choose that thought, as I create that picture and have that awareness, that energy, that vibration, that feeling is accessed, comes into me. And now I feel that because I thought that. I have that awareness of being strong, powerful, peaceful, and I see myself with that energy, with that way of being. And it feels good. I'm feeling good now. And that goodness permeates the whole body. Take another deep breath. Feel the life force that you command. And you also command your thoughts and feelings. And tell yourself the story. I am capable. I am aware. I will learn from what I do and what I choose. It'll be the best that I can do. And it'll be the right thing for me to do. Because I'm sensitive to what happens. And I will choose to evaluate anything that goes on in my life and use that for the next step, for my growth. My growth is going to be in a spiritual direction, spiritual qualities that are not physical. Peace, the love, the happiness. What brings me those qualities? And how can I use that when I have to make hard choices? Sometimes we have to do things and our friends aren't involved. And there's a joy and a sadness. Look at the sadness. Know it's there. And now look at the accomplishments, success, motion for your own life. And recognize that those energies are always going to be available and around. And when we recognize those energies, are conscious of those, we will see the ones we don't want and let them go. And claim the growth that regrets might not offer us. Let's make ourselves free from regrets. Grow into our elevated stage. Enjoy our life, enjoy each other, and tell ourselves the story of how things are going to be good. So I hope you all do that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, my first question for you is, I love how you talked about adjusting when you aim and you miss, and you adjust and then you try again, and that's fine, that's good. The problem is when you don't know what you're aiming for.
Okay.
Then how do you adjust?
Okay. Well, if you don't know what you're aiming for, you can never miss. You're always going to hit your target. So there should always be success. All right.
Really? Truly?
There's a story, I like this, about an archer. And they were walking through the woods, and he thought he was very good as an archer. But as he walked through the woods, he saw all these arrows on the tree. And each one was in the center of a bullseye. And as he walked on, he saw more and more, and he thought, oh my gosh, this archer is the best I've ever seen. He never misses. He never missed the bullseye. Each arrow was right in the center. And as they walk on and on, they find one who had shot the arrows. And he was sitting there taking a little break. And the one walking up said to him, you are amazing. Every arrow that you shot was in the bullseye. And the archer who had shot the arrows said, yes, I always do that. And the other one said, well, how do you do it? It's very easy. I shoot the arrow and then I paint the target around it. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you're always going to get exactly the right thing. It's going to not matter if you don't know what you want. And so, if you don't care what you eat, then anything is going to be fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, the next question, and I think for many people this will be a question that they may have. The person is saying, I deeply regret what I did many, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
I caused a person a lot of sorrow and sadness. To this day, I feel tremendous amount of remorse. And whenever something bad happens to me, I see this as the law of karma catching up with me. I am unable to express my feelings to this person, but I do send out good wishes, my love and light at those times. Is there anything else I can do?
Well, I hope there was something I said that might have sparked a thought. But it is an incredibly powerful situation. We did something that hurt somebody. We can't do anything about it. And actually, a relationship could be broken. People were hurt. Lives are ruined sometimes. If you can meet and apologize, send a letter, whatever it is, that's a good start. If you can't send it to them, writing that letter is also something that's a nice process. Kind of get it out of your head a little, put it down. And part of the process for me is to accept it. Okay. And that truly is something that has helped me. Doesn't change the situation, but I did my best. I made a decision. I wouldn't do it again. It was very wrong, harmful, bad consequences. but I couldn't do anything else because that's the decision I made. And to allow yourself to be forgiven, to allow yourself that sense that, that's how it is, that's how it was, but let me not continue to have the thought that it was something that I'm going to punish myself for. I guess that's what jail is about, is to think about what you've done and have kind of a change of mind. But we don't need to be in a prison in our mind. We don't have to have that awareness that, this was wrong, this was hurt. And part of it is not expecting forgiveness from the other. The main thing is to forgive yourself. I did what I did. I can't do anything differently. And it does bother me, but if you think about that, if you've started a little bit of forgiving and helping, doing something for others, you have a great education reference about these qualities, whatever it was. And so you can pass along that wisdom. How can I help somebody else? How can I use this and make sure it doesn't happen to somebody else? And just to sit and think about it and hold on to it will not help at all. What's the story? What can I do? How can I see myself differently? How can I practice the qualities so that I don't do it again? How can I adjust and accept? Good luck.
Thank you. Very practical. The next person is asking that they've given someone something that the person may use to either hurt themselves or hurt someone else, or not use it in a way that's positive. And their understanding is that if they've given someone something and that person then misuses it, that they could experience that negative impact back on them. And in that case, how do you change this regret into growth?
Yeah, the thinking about that, I would agree with. If you give someone they had a case here in the United States where the father bought a gun and gave it to his kid. The kid killed somebody, and they're suing the father. He was involved. He was responsible, and so there's a part of that. So I hope you're not giving guns to your friends or enemies or anything like that. But it's possible that if we do something, we will bear consequences for that. And if it's done, it's done. If it's with someone ask for it back, see how they're going to do it. I guess it depends on the people, the relationship, and what it is, and the details around that. But it's a great principle to keep in mind that if you do something and it's harmful to somebody else directly or secondarily or indirectly, you were involved in it. And so using that as a piece of information on helping us in our judgments and decisions is very valuable. What to do with what you've done. If there's something that you can do at this time to mitigate or minimize, I wouldn't recommend breaking in and taking it back or something like that. It all depends on the details. So good luck.
Yeah, maybe it's a learning for future. Like you said, it's a reference for future. The next question that's come in is, can you share the steps behind an approach you might take to contentment? For example, when you fail at something, but then you're able to get to a point of contentment.
Yeah. Okay. I believe everybody has had this experience. I don't know who's there today. Can't see anybody. Hope you're all doing good. But how to be content can replace a little with perseverance towards a goal. Okay, might not be satisfied with what I want, but I'm content on what I'm doing. If that subtlety makes a difference. For example, I hope you get a chance this weekend to be with some family and be with young, very young children, babies who are toddlers and are watching others walk. Because if you watch them, they will see what others are doing and they'll want to do the same thing. And if you've ever watched a little toddler crawling around trying to learn to walk, they will stand and they're unsteady and they will fall. Boop. But they don't think about what anybody else has thought about them. They don't think about anything and except that they want to walk. They want to accomplish something. They have that goal. They have that focus. They have that perseverance. That's what is in their mind. Look what they're doing. That looks pretty good. I want to do that. Let me try. And they will try, and you have tried. And I believe all of you were successful because you kept in mind not your failure, not that you couldn't do it, not what somebody else was thinking, but you kept in mind what you wanted. And that was more powerful than anything else. And so with that awareness that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish. And then you have that feeling, then you have that energy, then you have that momentum, and you will have that success. There's a great say video, but it was a presentation by an admiral. And I've seen it a couple different places, different ways, but how important it is to make your bed in the morning. Simple task. Make your bed. First thing, get up, make your bed. Could be the second thing. But what that does is it gives you a routine. It gives you a sense of immediate accomplishment. And if you focus in on looking at everything that you do, is I accomplished that, took my shower, had my breakfast, ate my coffee, made my bed. Wow, you're on a roll. You have this positive energy, you have this awareness that you can do things. And with that sense of an awareness and accomplishment, no matter what happens, that's what's going to support you during the day. And if nothing goes right, when you come back, you'll at least have the feeling that, yes, I started out right and things are good, things are in order, and it will bring back that feeling. You can do that throughout the day. But start with accomplishing things, doing things, and recognizing that, identifying that. And then when we are in a positive awareness, it will happen. There was a great class recently that I sat in, and it was about how to generate positive momentum. And it was focusing on the 5% of something that you do well. If you have 90% and it's all a mess, then you focus in on that, you're not going to get better. But if you can focus in on the 5% that you're doing well, that's a start, that's a beginning, that's a progress, and it will grow. And check your own story. How do you talk? And how do you listen to people? And what are they saying? You don't have to eavesdrop, but sometimes you don't get a chance to avoid conversations. I was walking on the street, just from one place to the other, and someone was talking on their phone behind me. It wasn't the same crazy person, they had a phone. But they were talking about their vacation, long, right behind me, 4 steps behind, couldn't miss. They said, oh yeah, we went to, and there's a town in Louisiana, New Orleans, got a distinct personality, great town in a way. and went there. It was all sorts of fun. And the next word was but, and then she went on, saying, oh, the only problem with it was that they only had penny slot machines at the casino. That was the only problem. I mean, you couldn't have the casino take your money fast enough was the issue. And so a lot of the world, and check yourself, has a deficit thinking. Everything is fine except these things. Everything is good but this. And we talk about what's wrong. And that needs to be flipped. What's good? What's right? What's okay here? What is beneficial? And that kind of an awareness will help us move through any situation and give us some power to do something that's next. We can accomplish the next thing. We can handle the next thing. If I can't foresee everything, let me just do what I can, what's right in front of me, and I'll do the next thing. Always do my best, see what I can focus in on, and hopefully that will change our response, the reaction, the energy, the cooperation, everything.
So focus on the 5%. That's right. Lovely. Thank you. Next question. If you have regrets because you reacted to someone because they were being verbally abusive, how do you move on from there?
Depends a few on the details, but if you have regrets on what you said because they were being verbally abusive, what are you regretting? That you're in that situation? That you had to stand up for yourself? That there could have been another way? There's lots of resources on how to respond in situations like that. Do you have regrets if you saved your life? Maybe not. Do you have regrets that the end of a bad relationship has taken place? I don't know. Do you have regrets because you didn't want to speak that way to loved one, children, something like that, possibly? Can you play that scene over in your mind and play it in a way that you don't regret what you say? Okay, somebody says, oh, this, and you say, shut up, and it's like, I didn't want to say that. What would you say in that situation if you had to do it over again? Practice that. This is what I would say. Think it, see it, and say it. Not to them, to yourself. This is what I would like to say. And practice that a couple different times. Have that awareness. And when you say it, how do you feel? And if you can hold on to that feeling, if you can make that a part of yourself, then that feeling will guide you the next time you're in that situation. But if you practice something, you'll get better at it.
Thank you. And this is the final question now. How do you help someone who has lots of regrets, but is not very spiritual?
Okay. Well, they may not know they're spiritual, but all of us have an inclination that we want company, cooperation, certain feelings. We want those things. And how can we help someone who has a lot of regrets? Well, how much time do you want to put into helping them? One of the aspects that I had to do with my friend is choose on how I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to spend my time in behavior that didn't feel right. And so I made decisions and I chose to do certain things. And I became an example of what was possible. Let's not think about that. Let's not talk about that. Let's do something else. Let's do something more. Let's do something new. Let's move on. And it's possible. They might say, you know, you're right. Let me join you. And it's possible they may not. No, this is how I'm going to be. This is what I choose to do. And one of the things that is going to be a challenge is you can't fix everybody else's life. You can learn from what you do. You can offer them options, but they have to take it. You are not their source of happiness. You can give them a choice. You can invite them to different things. You can have them think of other things. You can change the conversation. You can put up rules or barriers. No, we won't talk about that tonight. We have to do something else. Hoping that they can kind of put some time and space and feeling between whatever it is that they're holding on to. But it would be, one of those qualities where, you might observe, you might be one of them, where it has been such an impact. Some people don't forgive themselves, don't move on, and get stuck. But we are not the unstickers. We're the ones who might offer, show, invoke, help, good wishes, all sorts of different little ways to kind of prod and poke and move from their train of thought. But it's their thought.
Thank you. It's been an absolute delight having you sharing with us this evening, but also I just love the practical approach that you've shared without it being heavy at all. And so the thank yous are coming in already. So thank you very, very much, Erik, for joining us.